What is up, everybody? My name is TurboCal and welcome to yet another game review, and today I'll be talking about Spyro the Dragon. Now this is a very special game for me since it's one of my favorite games of all time. I mean, most of this review is just going to be blinded by nostalgia. I'm going to be seeing its praises, so heavily biased, just heavily biased, but it is a very good game. And I mean, if I had one game to choose to play for the rest of my life, I would choose probably Majora's Mask, because, I mean, come on people, Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is the best game ever. But if it was strictly PlayStation and not Nintendo, I would choose Spyro the Dragon. And what I said earlier, I was serious about. I never, and I mean never, stopped playing this game when I was growing up. Even the instruction manual got its fair share of attention from me, along with my older siblings. Look at this. None of my other game manuals are in such crap condition because of how much they were looked at. And I'll say it myself, I've praised this game so much up to this point without even playing it, so let's do what I'm supposed to do, and I'll play it and talk about it. Ooh. But one more thing, before I speak my thoughts. Remember when I said this? I meant it. One day at Universal Interactive headquarters, Mark Cerny got an awesomely brilliant idea that changed gaming as it was known and paved the way for what it's like today. The idea was to create a game that was in full 3D, almost panoramic and without any fog, meaning you'd be able to see anything in the distance, but the focus was interaction between the player and enemies. So with his idea, he went straight to Ted Price, the head honcho at Insomniac Games, and proceedings began. Shortly after, it was decided that the main character would be a dragon, and Spyro the Dragon was born. Hatched, whatever. But the guy that we can thank for perfecting the 3D gameplay is Alex Hastings. Now enough backstory, let's play. Aw man, this opening, the amount of nostalgia, it just still gets me. The Snork climbs up the mountain and is all like, and all of a sudden, the story of Spyro the Dragon goes as such. Once upon a time in the magical world of dragons, all things were at peace. Everyone lived in harmony and the dragons were the wealthiest beings in the land. I'm not sure why, but this whole living in harmony thing has me asking a question. Do the dragons practice the purge? In fact, the dragons are so well off that they're even being interviewed by Dragon CNN on how well things are. Apparently the dragons aren't very intelligent because they start saying a bunch of stuff like how their biggest threat ever, Nasty Nork, yeah, I know, beautiful name, is in fact not a threat and is ugly. Someone get Einstein over here at Dunce Cap. As it turns out, Nasty Nork himself, who I might add, has found a way to transform money into henchmen and has built an entire army by doing so, is watching this very broadcast. Wow, I wonder how he's gonna take it.
That does it!
Oh, you did it, Einstein! You killed all of the dragons! So understandably, Nasty gets angry and traps all of the dragons in crystal, except for our little protagonist Spyro. And with that, Spyro sets off for his journey. Now, I already know what you're thinking, and no, this game's story is not the reason why I sing its praises. In fact, in today's world, the story might be viewed as very mediocre, but keep in mind, E for everyone, that means there's kiddies playing. Gotta watch out for them kiddos, you know. Kiddos! In Spyro the Dragon, there are 4 key objectives. Objective number 1, collect back all of the loot that Nasty's troops have stolen. So, wait, just let me get this straight. Nasty Nork created the Norks from gems, which are essentially the currency in the world of Spyro the Dragon. And now we have Norks going around stealing gems. So what we have is cash burgling cash. The treasure is split into 2 categories, hub world treasure and level treasure. You see, one of my favorite aspects from Spyro the Dragon is that you function in a main land, yet all levels are accessed via warp portals. And what is really cool is that all warp portal levels coincide with the setting of the hub level. So essentially what you do is explore the hub world collecting gems that you find, and then proceed into regular levels, or you can collect gems as you go from level to level. Overall, there is a total of 14,000 treasure to be found. So by the time Spyro's quest is over, the little guy's gonna be loaded with cash. Now running around big lands and collecting all these gems sounds like it might be a hassle, but don't worry, Insomniac has you covered. You see this little guy? His name's Sparks. He's a dragonfly. Oh my god, that's so cool, a dragonfly for a dragon. You see, without Sparks, you'd have to go straight up to gems and just collect them yourself, but no, Sparks is like, oh okay, it's cool, Spyro, I got you. I will collect them for you, even if we're not really that close to them, just be in the general vicinity of them. Sparks is also cool because he's your guardian, meaning that he works as your health bar. This game has one of the coolest health bar mechanics I've ever seen. Overall, you have 3 hit points. Getting hit once will turn Sparks blue, twice will turn Sparks green, and 3 times, well, that means no more Sparks. But you see all these little animals running around? They carry around butterflies, which you can use to make Sparks stronger or to get Sparks back. Pretty cool overall. The second objective in Spyro the Dragon is freeing the previously mentioned Elder Dragons, who are now trapped in crystal statues. These guys are found all over the place, but are typically the hardest to come by. Seriously, Insomniac had a little too much fun hiding these guys. Just look at the one that's hidden in the level treetops. Oh yeah, come here. P.S. I know everyone hates treetops, but it's my favorite level. Overall, there are 80 dragons that need to be freed, so have fun finding them. And when found, they'll more often than not give you a hint on how to perform certain tasks, but you can also end up hearing something that is neither rewarding nor satisfying.
Thank you for releasing me.
The third objective in Spyro the Dragon actually happens to be the one that is only focused upon for maybe the first half of the game. These are dragon eggs. These little guys have been stolen by nasty egg thieves, which I can only assume was done so as a means of eradicating the entire race of dragons by, I don't know, not allowing their young to be born. But my real question is, how are there baby dragons when every dragon that you've rescued is of the male gender? Unless the dragons are somehow asexual in the sense that they're predominantly male yet they reproduce, and I'm overthinking this, aren't I? There are a total of 12 baby dragons to be found. The fourth and final objective of Spyro the Dragon is to take down the boss hog, Nasty Nork. He serves as the final boss and is probably the only good, maybe decent boss in the game besides Metalhead. Sadly, the bosses found in the first Spyro are hardly considered bosses by a lot of people, and I agree. There's just nothing to them. It just seems as if there's little to no validity to them, and they end up feeling almost rushed. But then again, I remember some of these guys actually posing a threat to me when I was younger. But back to Nasty's fight. Albeit the best one, there's very little payoff when you actually defeat him. Sure, Spyro says something cool, but throughout the entire game, there's no interaction between either of the two. The only thing that Nasty is mad about is being called ugly and not a threat. I'm even willing to bet that Nasty didn't even know that Spyro was still alive, and when he eventually showed up on his doorstep, Nasty was just like, wait, who's this again? Luckily, both problems being mediocre bosses and the absence of a rivalry between Spyro and the main antagonist were fixed in Spyro 2 and 3. Where Spyro the Dragon really, and I mean really shines, is in its definitive gameplay and expertly crafted music, which, I might add, was composed by Stuart Copeland and is still, to this day, considered some of the finest pieces of video game music. And Copeland composed the music almost seamlessly.
They pay me for this.
It's just the type of music that you hear and you're like, oh, that's the one. The music actually makes you feel like you're on an adventure, like everything's up to you, but it's not a threatening adventure, it's whimsical and magical and just so full of splendor. I don't know how to explain it. Now, the gameplay. The gameplay is amazing because not only was it revolutionary for its time, but it still holds up amazingly well today. Sure, sometimes the gliding mechanic is hit and miss, which was luckily fixed in Spyro 2, but the game still plays amazingly. This game was even one of the first to utilize the DualShock's analog control. How cool is that? And movement is a huge playing part in this game, seeing as you'll be traversing large levels. Generally, Spyro moves pretty slow, but with the simple press of a square button, you charge at a faster speed. You'll find yourself doing this a lot just to get around levels. This even comes into play with the diversity between enemy types. Sometimes you'll see small enemies wearing armor, and you'll probably think, okay, I'll charge them with square. Done and done. But then you'll see an enemy not wearing armor, and they're also noticeably bigger than the enemy that you just defeated. You can't charge them, so what do? Press circle to flame them. This even comes into play when breaking certain objects to gather loot. And what's really cool is that it's never outright stated in the game that, oh, you know, you gotta use this to defeat one enemy. It's just slightly hinted at, which I love. But one of the best things about the gameplay is the interaction between the enemies and Spyro. This is something that I never felt in any of the original Crash Bandicoot games because all enemies were static, meaning that they repeat the same movements and actions over and over again. In Spyro, there can be two enemies shooting cannons at each other, but as soon as you come into their view, they will stop, turn to you, and start firing at you. Keep in mind, this was revolutionary in 1998 and it is still awesome today. Which is the best thing since it makes you feel as if you're functioning in a real existing fantasy world full of fantastic creatures. My only complaint about the gameplay is that it might be too easy. And I know, this game is for kids, so what else should I expect? So in that case, the difficulty isn't that much of a big deal for me. But what's hilarious is when people rage over the quote-unquote difficulty spike in treetops. It's hilarious. Overall, this game is so awesome and I still love it, and So now for the past however long this video is, I have sung this game's praises, dismantled the game, and put it back together and sung its praises. So now you probably gotta be thinking, wow, TurboCal, you're blind, you're just blinded by nostalgia. But honestly, this game is amazing. The gameplay, the music, the story's on the little bit of the kiddier side, but it's a kid's game. It's great. See, for everyone, there's kids playing. But yeah, I couldn't think of a better game to recommend for you other than maybe Metal Gear Solid or the Crash Bandicoot series. It's just such a good game. Just go out for yourself, play it. It's a really good game. As always, my name is TurboCal. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to receive an extra life, and just check back periodically for more videos. I'm always doing them now. It's just, I'm always doing them. I feel so lonely. Either way, thank you for watching. My name is TurboCal. I will see you next time.